Good afternoon. This is I'm David Mandy, president of O&M Partners. I want to welcome everyone to the GR Silver Mining Town Hall call. GR Silver has a listing on the TSX Venture, GRSL, and also on the OTC in the US under the symbol GRSLF. As most of you know, this event is brought to you by New York-based O&M Partners. Just like to remind people we're a marketing and communications company, not a broker-dealer. We're not commissioned. And our mission is to bring public companies and investors and non-deal investors together in real time, hopefully bring information to them and also provide context so they can make a better informed investment decision. We welcome all questions. There's a chat feature in GoToWebinar, or you can email it to us. Either way, we will get back to you with your answer. And I think that's everything. So it's a pleasure to turn to our host, Marcio Fonseca. Marcio is the president and CEO. Marcio has extensive experience in the mining industry. I mean, he's done it all in many jurisdictions and worked for big companies. He had senior roles with Echo Bay Mines, Phelps, Dodge, and Vale in Latin America. 20 years of mining and financial industry experience. He's a former division director of Macquarie Bank, metals and energy. But he's reached the point where instead of help build big companies, he's building his own company devoted to shareholder value. And I think we're really in an early stage of a really great story. And it's a pleasure to pass it on to Marcio.
Thank you, Dad. Thank you, everybody, for attending today the webinar. Thank you, O&M, for organizing. For those who are not familiar with GR Silver Mining, we are a resource development stage company in Mexico and in the Rosario Mining District. And this company was before named Gold Play Exploration, but as part of the business strategy, we've been acquiring silver and gold assets in the Rosario Mining District. And today I can say that the GR Silver Mining control the most important at resource expansion stage or even close to development stage assets in that district. For the purpose of this presentation, I'll be making some forward-look statements. This is the traditional standard cautionary statement that's available on the website. This slide is just a snapshot of our current capital structure, still very tight. Includes the recent 17 million shares issued to First Majestic as part of the consideration that we paid for the acquisition of the Plomosas Silver Project. And First Majestic became the largest shareholder in this company. Before that was management, including myself. We still have a good composition of shareholders, which include blue chip type resource funds that came in the last financing last November, when we raised 3 million Canadian dollar 20 cents, no warrants, and was oversubscribed. And we still have some companies like SSR Mining as shareholders and JDS Mining Engineer. So it's a solid shareholder support. Even in this current market, the company has been strong enough to maintain close or a little bit below the last financing. We are trading today 19 cents. And so in support, close to 150,000 shares on a daily trade basis. Cash position is a little bit below 2 million, and it's part of the capital we raised last year. And we can be pretty fully funded for the next couple of months. And I'm going to explain a bit more about the Plomosas project because it's a transaction that's transforming this company as the dominant player in the Rosario Mining District. It's a multi-million ounce district. We control the key assets and even assets really in the middle of Fresnillo land position, which I'm going to show in the next couple of slides. If you're not familiar with the location, all the red concessions here is our portfolio, and the purple are the ones that were acquired from First Majestic. You can see that we have the Plomosas Silver Project exactly on the right side of the map here immediately above the San Marcial project that we bought from SSR Mining. So these two projects, Plomosas and San Marcial, have an amazing location, to the point that I would say today the company control most of the mineralized system on that portion of the Rosario mining district. And the mineralization is pretty much low sulfidation epithermal, high grade in nature, very similar to many other multi-million ounce mining districts in Mexico, which I'm going to show to all in this webinar. So again, the company is well positioned as the company that controls the key assets in the district. And you can see there's a blue, lightly blue group of concessions that are controlled by Fresnillo. Those concessions are exactly up on the Rosario mine. That's a mine that produced a lot of gold and silver. And as part of this transaction, we end up acquiring concessions exactly in the middle of the Fresnillo land package as well. As a matter of infrastructure, country risk, permitting, environmental, we are in good position because it's a historic mining district. Plomosas is a past developer, was a mine that was in operation by Grupo Mexico. They had a small mine, and they didn't develop the additional mines. Important to say as part of the history, that mine operated from 1986 to 2001. And if you recall, those years, the gold and silver price were pretty much low, much lower than what is today. They made a decision in 2001 to shut down the mine due to the commodity price in that year. First Majestic acquired this property, Plomosas, from other junior company and made some material investments in exploration, and recently made a decision to divest this after they realized how successful we have been as a team, expanding resources in San Marcial and with the knowledge that we have accumulated in the last 2 years. In this slide, it's important to show that the similarities that we have, and we have evidence today, between the Plomosas, San Marcial combined, and the San Dimas, that's the map in the center of this slide. San Dimas today is controlled by First Majestic. They took over Primero mine. It's a multi-million ounce mine at district. They produce 11 million ounces of gold, 620 million ounces of silver by historical records. Looking where these two projects are, San Dimas and San Marcial Plomosas. To make a statement here, we control Plomosas and San Marcial. San Dimas is a mine operated by First Majestic. Both are located, if you look on the first map here, on this purple line, on the edge of what we call the Sierra Madre Occidental. And after a good number of months reviewing all the data, and today we understand very well the geology, we believe that the Plomosas San Marcial, which is the third map on the right side here on the slide, has similar structures, northwest, southeast, and even east-west, that controls similar high-grade silver and gold mineralization, similar to San Dimas. And we are going to show here why we are very excited about Plomosas, because the property is not exploration. As I said before, there's close to $18 million of investment by two companies here, First Majestic and Grupo Mexico. A lot of infrastructure. This altogether, the exploration investments and the infrastructure, makes us believe that there is close to $15 million in this property, Plomosas. Roads, power lines, underground development, camps, and some existing foundations for future mill and crusher. And important to say as well that Plomosas comes as a past producer with all the permits and authorizations to restart a mine, if you decide to do in the next couple of months or maybe 12, 24 months. And the property comes with 563 drill holes, yes, 100,000 meters of drilling, which can make the company be very effective in a way to save capital. We don't need to drill to define resources. And none of these drill holes were ever released. And you're going to see a lot of news release in the coming days and weeks about this property, and also San Marcial that we are working on in that property as well. Again, this summary here is a snapshot showing the Plomosas project, the A, and the San Marcial B, and the synergies, how much data and the sizes, and how we can have a good combination of Plomosas, more underground type of deposit, and San Marcial, which I'm going to show in some slides, a high grade, low strip ratio, high margin, open pit. And they are very close to each other, 5 kilometers. We can share a lot of synergies and really be very attractive for development. But in the next couple of months and 6-12 months, what we are going to do is expand the resource, because San Marcial, we have a 43-101 with 40 million ounces of silver, 47 equivalent, mostly silver, attractive high grade for open pit, on average 250, which in gold would be probably 2.5 low strip ratio. And the infrastructure at Plomosas can show us that we can really have low capital costs to develop all those two properties together. At this stage, I'm going to show a video of the Plomosas to give an idea about the distribution of the drill holes. We have 6 zones. Each zone has on average probably 100 drill holes. But only one zone, the Plomosas, had a small mine, 600 tons per day. And I'm going to show you. All the remaining areas are unmined, so ready to do brand new resource estimation. And before that, we are going to release a lot of the drill holes. Just bear with me a second. I'm going to play a video. This video is to show the location of these 563 drill holes. A lot of investors are asking me why this company is never released. It was their decision. But you can see here, the first is the Plomosas, where they had the mine. 8 kilometers of underground development. A lot of holes showing upside potential outside of what was mined. And this mine was a very attractive mine at that time, when gold price was 250 and silver price was $5 per ounce. You can see here, all these green dots are drill holes. And the second area that I'm going to show here is one area named San Juan. The first batch of drill holes that are coming next week is from this area. You can see there's a small underground development in yellow there, but all the green are the drill holes, which we are going to release. Some of them were drilled in 2018, 2017, 2016 by First Majestic, fully compliant with 43-101. What we are doing now is preparing the project to have 6 resource estimations. And we are going to add the ounces that we are going to define here with the 47 that we have in San Marcial. Going back to my presentation. This is a view of the San Juan area. If you look here on this slide.
Sorry, Marcio, we're still seeing the video player. Stop showing.
Oh. Apologies. Can you see now?
Not quite yet. So stop showing video and show main screen. Yep, here we go.
Thank you. So back to the corporate presentation. This is slide is the first area.
Sorry, not quite yet. Do you see show my screen?
Oh yeah, good.
Now we're back. Thank you so much.
Now it's back. Apologies. So we are back now showing the corporate presentation. This slide is the first area where we are working with all the data. Last week you released the first samples that we took inside the underground development San Juan. Again, nobody ever mined this area. You can see the table below here, this drone view. We have kilos of silver in narrow veins that never been properly integrated in a 3D model, and we are doing that. And in a couple of days, you're going to see the first set of probably 5 to 7 drill holes that we are going to release, showing that not only the red lines show mineralized veins, but also the yellow one. And what we are defining here is a multiple set of veins, similar to other large and high-grade projects in Mexico, which has never been properly integrated and defined. We are going to be the first company to release the drill hole results, and also the first company to define a resource in this area, a 43-101. As said earlier, we have this amazing combination between San Marcial and Plomosas. They are very close. If you look up on the map on the left side, they are very close, and the structures and mineralized systems are pretty much the same, the host rocks, so there's a lot of synergies. With a low-cost acquisition, the consideration that we paid for First Majestic to control today 100% of the Plomosas was 100,000 Canadian dollars. We granted First Majestic 2% NSR, which we have a buyback to buy back 1% and to pay 1 million. And we issued 17 million shares. Roughly, this has a value of 5 million Canadian dollars for a project that is very close maybe to a potential development, a lot of information, and a total investment in exploration of 18 million US dollars, and probably investment infrastructure by Grupo Mexico of 30 million US dollars, close to $50 million of investments here. So we paid probably 10% of what was invested there and brought a high quality asset to the portfolio of this company, adding a lot of value to the investors. We have came across a lot of new gold discoveries at San Marcial, and we believe that San Marcial can be silver gold as well. Again, just referring to Plomosas, Plomosas was a past producer, but Grupo Mexico only produced a concentrate, a lead and zinc, and got the credits of silver, and didn't analyze much for gold. We believe we can have gold systems and silver systems, high grade at Plomosas, that could be potential discoveries for this company and add ounces as well. I'll refresh a bit about San Marcial. We didn't stop working at San Marcial, and as today we have just slowed down a bit due to the current situation about the coronavirus. Important to say that we are not a mine, so we don't have hundreds of people work on site and tens of equipment. We have a crew of people that mostly work in 2 by 2 in the field, and they are in a project site. So according to the Mexican health authorities, we are fine to continue to work. We decide not to stop. So we are continue to do all the drilling, underground development at San Marcial. We are expanding a tunnel. We are drilling on the surface along the trend, and we are preparing to drill underground. Why we are preparing to drill underground? If you see there's some purple lines here, these are underground drill holes that we are planning to drill under the existing resource, because the existing resource on these black dots, we have 52 holes here, covering 500 meters of strike length. On 500 meters, we defined 40 million ounces of silver, 47 million equivalent. If you compare that, to have more 6 new zones at Plomosas with on average 100 drill holes on each, you can see the ability to multiply this resource in the next 6 to 12 months. But important to say about San Marcial, it's very unique because you have wide mineralization on surface, trenches and drill holes showing that, for example, a trench 56 meters with 196 grams per ton silver, close and outside of the resource area. This is almost 56 meters at 2 grams per ton gold equivalent, if you want to convert to gold. And some of the high grades undergrounds are kilos of silver. We are going to look at this, and also last year we had an amazing discovery that was 1 meter of 200 grams per ton of gold, which was a completely new discovery that we are following up with more drilling nearby and along the trend. This section is in the middle of the resource. It's important for you to see that the kind of pinkish line here is where we are going to put the underground drilling. Right now, we are expanding the tunnel. That's the black dashed line on the section here, because we believe that putting the tunnel 100 meters inside the mountain, we'll be able to continue to drill intersections such as the last one at the bottom of the resource. We got 1.5 meters at close to 1 kilo of silver. And you believe the mineralization is continuing from the surface to the last drill hole that shows on the section 1.5 meters at 1 kilo of silver. It's probably 250 meters of down deep length. And most of the mines in Mexico can go to 500 or even 700 meters below the surface. And we discovered some gold in one of the holes that went through this brown area, which is driving us to define that the Samuel is probably another silver gold system, low sulfidation epithermal with some credits in zinc and lead. This company is still at its infancy of valuation, because now we were very quiet in the first 1.5 years. We bought San Marcial on May 2018, did the resource in 6 months, almost double the resource size, been working very quietly to acquire other assets. Successfully, we just acquired Plomosas, and now we still have a market cap of 18 million Canadian, but I believe we are on the path to increase the value with both projects and the portfolio that we have at the Rosario mining district. When you compare this with other successful stories, I would say, for example, Silvercrest Metals, which I was involved in Silvercrest Mines. That was the first company, and Silvercrest Metals is a spin-off of Silvercrest Mines. Just to give a reference, I was directly involved in Silvercrest Mines up to selling Santa Helena to First Majestic for $150 million in October 2015. When Silvercrest Metals was created in October 2015, a much lower valuation. They've been in the market for 3-4 years, and today they have a market value close to $1 billion. They successfully control a mining district, the Las Chispas area, with multiple veins. Today at Plomosas, we have around 6 zones, and we believe that we have 30 kilometers of structures, which together 6 kilometers inside San Marcial have plus 40 kilometers of structures to define new veins. And the ability to go from 1, 2, 6, or multiple of 6 veins, it's there based on the information we have today, which is going to support the growth of this company in the next 6-12 months. So as a snapshot timeline, milestones, what we are going to do, and the business strategy, the next 6 months, you are going to see a lot of drill hole results, because we have 563 drill holes ready to be validated and released to the market. Next week, you're going to see the first batch, and the following week, another batch. So we have a way to be cost effective to release the drill holes. At the same time, we are drilling at San Marcial. There'll be some results from that, and we are doing underground development. So in the 6 months, some resource estimates from Plomosas, probably one of the areas, San Juan. Next year, we have more up-to-date resource, San Marcial, and another area, 2 areas from Plomosas. And 12 to 24 months, we start to integrate more of these projects and start to apply some economic analysis, how we can make this a very attractive open pit, underground combined, high-grade silver, gold, and maybe some polymetallic mine in this area. So this company is perfectly positioned to grow, expand the resources, because we control a mining district. The key assets are today 100% controlled by this company. We do not have any debt, and we believe that we have received good support from blue chip resource funds and companies that will help us navigate from this crisis and increase the value of this company. So here we have all the key information. If you want to contact us, we have our website and our social media pages. At this point, I'm going to move back the presentation to OM. I believe we are going to go into a question and answers. And thank you very much for the presentation.
Thank you so much. We're going to start today's Q&A with Howie Flinker. Howie, do you have a question?
I have two big picture questions, Alexandria and Marcio. The two questions are, do you hear or see a shortage of physical silver there the way there is in the gold market? Because there's a severe shortage of physical gold on contracted deliveries. And second, can you explain why silver is so far behind gold? They're big picture questions.
In relation to your first question, I've been following silver for the last probably 10 years, and silver is becoming more and more an industrial mineral rather than a precious metals, particularly these days when you see the gold-silver ratio at 110. And I believe that has been a continuous increase in demand and decrease in supply, because most of the mines have been underground, low grade and low margin. A lot of companies shut down. And now you need to take into account that recently a lot of Mexican mining companies shut down due to this pandemic, interrupted production or decrease in production. So in the next 6 months, I believe there will be a correction in silver price due to this. Would you mind just repeating your second question?
My second question, well, I'm going to follow your point. Do you mean that some of these silver mines in Mexico will remain shut, or will they reopen?
After the government allow them to open, because Mexico is at the early stage of this cycle of this pandemic, I think they will open. But when I refer to mines that are not necessarily going to be open, are those that are really narrow, low grade. Because you need to have plus 300 grams per ton silver, not saying silver equivalent, to be able to produce something attractive in Mexico. And a lot of companies have cash costs between 12 and 14, not many below 10. They take into account byproducts to be below 10. So at 15, it's a bit of really borderline for them to continue to operate, in my opinion.
300 grams for silver, that's 9 ounces. Is that what you said?
300, it's 350, let's say, it's 10 ounces. If you want to talk in ounces per ton, yes.
Yeah, 11 ounces. And you think they need 11 ounces to stay alive?
At least 11, 10, at least that.
Okay. And the second question at the beginning was, can you explain why the price of silver has risen so little compared to the price of gold? I can't figure it out.
I cannot figure out either. I've been hitting my head on that too, because I've been in the industry for 25 years. For many, many years, through many economic cycles, the gold-silver ratio maintained stable in the range of 60 to 70. When you see a gold-silver ratio today at 110, there's a completely lack of explanation. The only thing I believe is that a potential correction to come or adjustment on that basis.
Okay, thank you, Marcio, and thank you, Alexandria.
Welcome.
Thank you, Howie. We're going to move to Greg Orrell. Greg, do you have a question today?
Marcio, thanks for the presentation. Couple questions. One is, so on the Plomosas project, are those veins the same width as San Marcial, or is that what we should be expecting when you start to release results?
The answer is yes, and to add more to the answer is like Plomosas has two different ore types. One is the zinc lead polymetallic with a lot of silver and gold, which is a breccia, reminds me a bit of the breccia in San Marcial. But Plomosas as well has high grade, 2-3 meters wide silver gold veins. So we are inside those 3 meters, 2 meters, you might have a cup of 1 meter, 1.5 meters with kilos of silver, which is common in some other successful stories in Mexico today.
Mm-hmm. And when Grupo was mining it, when they stopped, were there still reserves left in the mine?
Yes, we finally have access to the whole information. It's amazing the amount of data that we have today. And I can say that today, I believe that Grupo left 5 years of reserves.
Mm-hmm. And they were mining, what was the rate that they were mining at again?
The width they were mining there was 15 meters. 1.5.
Yeah, I mean, they mined at 15 meters wide. What was the rate? How many tons per day were they mining?
It was a 600 tons per day project.
Uh-huh.
Their cutoff was based on $250 per ounce of gold, $5 per ounce of silver, 50 cents per pound of zinc and lead.
Mm-hmm.
So they were mining in the probably average grade of 400 to 500 grams per ton silver, equivalent 700 to 800.
Right. So your initial, you're going to go in, you're going to put a resource around the previous drilling that was done. And are you going to have to go back in and drill closer centers on those in order to bring it up to reserve?
So far, because the 563 drill holes is a mix of the historical Grupo Mexico and First Majestic that they drilled from 2016 to 2018. The First Majestic is fully compliant. What we have seen so far that there are a lot of First Majestic drill holes in the middle of the historical, validating this being what you said about center, to put drill holes in the center, which really save a lot of money for us. And in relation to your comment about the resources around, the resources that we are going to estimate are not only around the Plomosas mine, what was mined by previous company like Grupo Mexico, but are also brand new areas that were completely unmined. So the tons are there. So that's the composition.
Right. So when you go back in and start drilling, are you going to step out? How, what's the plan? Are you stepping out along those in order to expand the known resources there? What are your how are you going to go about it?
I didn't mention, but outside of the whole data package of 563 drill holes, we got a lot of exploration data. And today you have probably other 20 areas that we can go and start doing some shallow drill holes to define more veins and potentially define some inferred resources on those areas too, outside of the 6 ones that I showed in the video.
Right. So at what point do you move from being just okay, let's see how big this can be, to saying, okay, let's try to put some economics around, combining the two projects?
I would say in our business strategy, we need at least 12 months. So we'll be able to put 2 or 3 areas or 4 areas together with the expansion of San Marcial in a way that you can move well above the 100 million ounces of silver.
Right. So, I mean, you see it's 100 million ounce is what you can kind of see out in front of you, and ideally you'd probably like to double that.
I believe the Plomosas project has potential to be well above that, just that project. That,
right.
For me, in my opinion, is a conservative number.
Okay, good. All right, thanks, Marcio. Appreciate it. Stay after it.
Thank you.
Thanks, Greg. We're going to move now to Doug Loud. Doug, do you have questions today?
Hi, Doug Loud here. I have a couple of questions, a couple little ones and a couple of bigger ones, if you can bear with me. Earlier on in the presentation, when you were showing the map of your projects, you showed Fresnillo. Were you just talking about them, or do you actually have a project in the middle of them the way MAG does?
I'm going to move the presentation back to that slide so you can see here. Yeah. But to answer your question, yes, was a very positive surprise to us when you're doing the due diligence for the acquisition as part of the land package that was offered to us. First Majestic offered these 3 or 4 purple concessions exactly in the middle of the Fresnillo position. Today, we have defined that as a Rosario project. We have not done any work, but as a location, it has all the elements to be highly valuable in the future for this company.
Yeah. So this is amazing. Why would Keith do that?
I'll give my opinion, and Plomosas became a non-core asset for them. They got really busy with the acquisition of San Dimas, which is a fantastic mine, 250 kilometers north, same geological setting. First, I think they have been watching how successful and cost-effective GR silver mining has been in that district. With not much capital, we have increased a lot of the knowledge. We spent today probably $2.5 million Canadian at San Marcial, and almost double the resource. They probably did not follow the importance of these concessions, but at the end of the day, they still have a lot of interest in this company because First Majestic control 19.9% of the shares. But important to say that it's a big vote of confidence, but also a very positive relationship because I was one of the architects that sold to Keith Neumeyer the Santa Elena mine in 2015. Yes. Santa Elena mine today is a flagship mine for First Majestic.
Yes, so they still have a heavy interest, so they're still work out okay. My bigger question was, your two projects, the San Marcial and the Palomas, are very close together. What is in between? And I mean, I notice there's a little mine shown there on the map. Do you think the veins
between San Marcial and the Rosario? There's a big concession that's controlled by a hedge fund, a mining company named Mako, M-A-K-O Mining. At the moment, they are shutting down. They are in reclamation. We have exclusivity until December 2020 to acquire that concession. But we are doing a review, which has slowed down a bit because of the limitation to travel to Mexico these days. Might be a second acquisition in that district into 2020. At the moment, we are reviewing the data.
Right. Now, do you have to worry about Iquitos and all that, or are you already beyond that?
Say again, I missed it a bit.
You have to worry about the ownership of the land with the Ejidos, or are you beyond all that?
The key executives of this company, including myself, have been doing business in Mexico for more than 15 years. We are all fluent Spanish here. Good relationship, good understanding of the business. When we set up the business, one of the key points was to have great relationship with locals and ejidos because they are fundamental for the success of the business.
Absolutely.
All the ejidos inside San Marcial is one ejido in Plomosas. We have all the agreements in place. There's good.
Great.
Okay.
Is the Mexican government being helpful? They were sort of leaning on the miners for a while.
Yes, I would say yes.
Okay. I think that's my questions for the moment. Thank you. Very interesting.
Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Doug. We're going to turn now to Wade Black. Wade, do you have any questions today?
Yeah, actually, this is very interesting because one of the companies, previous owners of your property, we helped raise money for many years ago. A company called Silvermex Resources that was subsequently bought by First Majestic in the last cycle, let's call it. They were one of the few who got out at the right time, and I think that's the reason. Maybe First Majestic may have overpaid a little bit for the assets, and now they're getting rid of them in a way that gives them some exposure to the upside. So it's very interesting. I was a big fan of Silvermex. They did a lot of great work down in Mexico, and I've always been disappointed when I see that they haven't done anything with the assets. I'm glad that you guys are doing it. They did not have the same property position that you have now with Plomosas. Plomosas was, I believe, the sort of neurology, if that's not the right word. It's a very specific technical geological word where you find good new mines in the shadow of an old mine. But they didn't have Plomosas. And tell me how that informs you guys on the potential for Rosario and San Marcial.
Thank you. But can you summarize your question? Maybe.
Yeah. So basically, tell me what you guys have going that's better than what Silvermex had going in 2009.
What's the difference between 2009 and today, right?
Yeah.
First Majestic drilled 133 drill holes. We've been able to integrate most of the drill data in a 3D model.
Partial fill.
We have validated most of the data. We believe we are going to be the first company to really put all the drill holes out to the market And some drill holes are kilos of silver and a couple of tens of grams per ton of gold. The recent holes at First Majestic. It creates a lot of information that has never been addressed, in my opinion, properly. I encourage people to look. When I say that none of the First Majestic drill holes were released, we did a thorough review in the public domain. It was their decision and became an opportunity for us to release these holes and start to showing them. So we don't need to drill to release the holes. We have all these drill holes to show to the market. Probably you know you're involved with Silvermax, which I know well because Silvermax at some stage had the option to buy the Summer Ciel project and pay $15 million US. Our option is to pay 2.5 million Canadian, and we brought SSR as an investor. And again, is the attractive combination of these two assets and how we can really create a core business in that district. And for the first time, a company controls all these assets because Silvermax had an option at Summer Ciel and had a control at Plomosas, but they did not have all the concessions around the Rosario mine.
That's correct. That's a good answer.
Wade, did you have any further questions?
No further questions. Thank you.
Okay, great.
Appreciate it.
We're going to turn now to Martin DeBovis. Martin, questions today?
Yeah, I did have a question about your relationship with the government because I've been hearing so many negative stories recently. Do you have to pay a royalty fee, or do you have to support the local population as this goes forward?
The way it worked in Mexico, as I said before I set up this company, I was VP Corporate Development for Silvercrest Mines. Before that, I was a Division Director for International Bank doing finance for mining projects in Mexico. We are very familiar with the structure. Of course, you need to pay the taxes. You might get some of the IVA back. There's some royalties to the existing owners of the concessions. They are available on our website by each project. And now First Majestic is going to have an NSR on the Plomosas. In relation to the locals, which are the ejidos mentioned early in this webinar, normally the way it works in Mexico, when you're doing drilling, doing resource, before you go into operations, you have agreements about to pay for disturbance that you do in the environment by number of the drill holes, and you pay some annual fees, which are not prohibitive. But by the time you get to the production decision, particularly in Summer Ciel, you need to make another agreement with one ejido. The Plomosas project, it has been the best producer. He has already all the conditions defined, which is an annual rent. There's no royalty on that project for the ejido. Okay.
Sorry.
Did I answer your question?
Yeah, you did. I guess the only other question is the infrastructure in place for this mine to be developed, the roads, electric power, and so on.
Apologies, I missed that.
Is the infrastructure in place for you to develop the mines? Roads, workers, available labor, electrical power, that kind of thing.
Oh yeah, it's a key point in this company. Why we gave away almost 20% of the dilution to the company to a shareholder. That's great. That's First Majestic. The asset that we are buying comes with a 60 kilometers of power line, high voltage, fully operational. All the roads are there, built. As I said, a lot of electrical, physical equipment on site, inventory of pieces and parts, 8 kilometers of underground development in the mountain. That's why I was referring that roughly we have $30 million US of investments. And I'm being conservative here, that this company does not need to invest, make a decision to restart the mine.
Okay.
And everything is permanent.
It's a really interesting project, real exciting. I wish you the best. Thank you.
Well, thank you.
Great, thanks, Martin. At this moment, I'm going to go ahead and unmute all of our Q&A participants to see if anybody has any further questions. Do we have any further questions?
None from me.
Thank you,
All right.
Mauricio.
Great. Marcio, I'm going to turn it back over to you for closing remarks then.
Again, thank you very much. Thank you for Amy for the opportunity. This is the first presentation on webinar on the O&M with the new company and the transformation. Transformation because the acquisition of Plomosas, the consolidation of the Rosario district, together with San Marcial, all together set up this company to be at different level. This company is not an exploration company. We are increasing resources. We are adding high quality ounces of silver to our inventory and moving towards in the next 12, 24 months to make a decision about development or restart the mine or not. But first and more important, we are operating a very cost-effective way because of the drilling data that we have, and we operate at low-cost drilling at San Marcial. And we believe that we are really well set up for a very successful growth in the Rosario mining district and in Mexico. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, and thank you everyone for being on the call today. Take care.